And that's it. It's over. This historic 2020 NBA championship belongs to the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers conquer the bubble, and banner number 17 will soon hang in the rafters.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Just Say Guay. I'm your host, George Guay. Today I'm joined by Mike Penberthy, who is an assistant coach of the 2020 NBA champion Los Angeles Lakers. Mike, thanks for coming on the show.
Great to be here, George.
So I got to ask you, how have you been? I mean, it's been a week since you guys won. Are you still soaking it in? Has it fully hit you yet?
Yeah, it hasn't fully hit yet. You know, you get back home out of the bubble and you're kind of excited just to be home. The bubble was a great experience in terms of just being able to finish the season and close it out, but you know, you miss your family, you miss just regular life, seeing your friends and getting around. So it's nice. It's been nice to be home and do that. And then I don't know when it will settle in. Hopefully it'll take its time and make this off season, a little better.
Yeah. Before we get into that, I'll have to backtrack a bit to your first championship with the Lakers when you won as a player. You played with Shaq and Kobe on that historic run where you guys went 15-1 in the playoffs. What was it like being a part of that as a player?
Well, Shaq and Kobe obviously were our Hall of Famers and amazing players. So anytime you can be on the floor with them, it's a good thing. It's a fun thing. So it's a different feel when you're playing in front of 20,000 every night, screaming fans, and then when you're coaching in the bubble. So it was a totally different experience. But the basketball at that level, if you can imagine the two best teams in the world playing. When we played, it was Iverson we played against, and so Shaq and Kobe were playing at their best. Nothing compares to that. You know, those are two teams that spend a lot of time studying and trying to, counter everything that's being done against them. So all your preparation is the high level, all the players are playing at the high level, and then to win means that we were successful doing it. So it was crazy to play with those guys and really an honor.
Yeah, it's the best duo I'll ever see in my lifetime, I think. I mean, I'm only 23 years old. The only memory I have of them is unfortunately the Detroit Pistons championship when they lost. You know, I was just so young. What made them click? Because you see a lot of duos in the NBA, they have their struggles, and people say, oh, one carried the other. To me, it was like Batman and Batman for them. How did they make it work so well, given the fact they were both the best at their position?
Yeah, I think the key to that is that they were playing two different positions. So Shaq being a center, Kobe being a guard, that allowed for them to both be great at their individual positions and not overlap each other. And in fact, they could work together because of that as well. So, we would always finish games with them playing pick and roll. That doesn't work if Shaq's a center and Kobe's a forward, So I would say it's similar for us with LeBron and AD in that they're two different positions and two different skill sets, and that allows us, some more freedom. So Shaq and Kobe had that ability to take over in their own way, one-on-one at the post or on the perimeter, and then they could work together as well. So that probably is what made them special playing together.
Yeah, definitely historic. So I got to ask, what's it like, taking on a duo like that as a player as opposed to as a coach? You have LeBron and AD now.
As a player, I mean, for me as a player, like when I was playing?
Yeah, what's it like playing with a duo like that, as opposed to coaching?
Well, playing with them, you're trying to basically help them. Like Shaq Shaq and Kobe like to have me on the floor just because I can shoot. So that was space for them. So my job was really just to help them, make their job easier, make them better. So I was really just a helper alongside them to spread the floor. As far as it goes coaching, with AD and LeBron, it's all about helping them in a different way, where it's information, it's content, it's preparation before the game, it's knowing play calls, it's giving them suggestions on plays to run and moves to do. It's anticipating what the other team's defense may do and where the reads may come from on their double team, since they both get double teamed. I had to know where to be as a player. I need to tell everybody else where to be as a coach. So that's the difference.
Okay, so speaking of AD, before he came to the Lakers, he was with the Pelicans for about 7 years, and you were an assistant there as well. What did you learn as an assistant there? And speaking of the Pelicans, what do you think the ceiling is for that team with Zion and that core?
Well, I learned a lot being there because we did get to the playoffs and we did sweep Portland in the first round. And then our defensive coverages there, I brought those to the Lakers in handling Dame Lillard and the Portland Trailblazers in our first round matchup this year. So learned a lot on about, how to prepare for teams and what would work specifically versus Portland. Second thing is I saw all of AD's areas in which he could improve. So when I got the chance this year to really be focused on him, because I spent most of my time focusing on Drew Holiday and Rondo when I was in New Orleans. AD wasn't one of my guys that I worked with on a daily basis. In LA here, he was basically my entire focus. And so I was able to see what he needed to grow and improve in. And we made that happen this year. He improved so much throughout the year. And so that was what I learned in terms of being in New Orleans. I would say the ceiling for New Orleans, man, they're really good. They've got some super athletic players and some young talent there. They might be too young to really have an impact in the Western Conference for a little while. They need some vets and some good vets. So they got to re-sign Ingram. They got to get him back. Zion just needs to stay healthy. If they can keep Drew Holiday and JJ Redick around, there's your two vets that can give some veteran leadership and savvy. And then they got all the young guys that came from LA in Hart and Ball. So we'll see. It'll depend a lot on who their coach is and what style of play they have as well. They played up and down. They were a real fast-oriented, high-paced team. The ceiling is really high, but they got to stay healthy. I mean, that's the most important thing. And Zion had trouble with that this year. I think he'll be okay next year, but you never know, man. Hopefully those guys can stay healthy and be a nice contributor in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially with the veteran part. I mean, it's hard for the face of a franchise to be 19 years old and the other face maybe 21, 20 and lead the way. So, I got to ask before we get into the bubble, the basketball world suffered a tragedy in the loss of Kobe Bryant. Hit everyone really hard. It hit me hard. I remember when Kobe was the first jersey I ever got, and I can only imagine how hard it was playing with him. How did the team rally and use it as motivation to win the championship? Because that was a big part of it this year in the bubble.
Yeah, I mean, you always can find inspiration when you think about super talented players like Kobe. We had a number of people that were close to him. Rob Pelinka was on. Our general manager was Kobe's best friend. So we had a ton of memories and conversations and laughs and just a lot of those "can you believe he used to do this" type moments. And so it's always fun to draw those type of memories and some inspiration from it. When we're playing, obviously we're not thinking about it, but in the pregame and maybe even in the days off, he provided some great conversation and discussion and enjoyment because he was such an amazing player. And so LeBron and AD and all the players loved to watch highlights of him or ask me questions. What was it like to play with him? So those are always fun things to do. And so we had a great time discussing it. He was definitely an influence, even though he wasn't here. And so that's always fun, going down memory lane, talking about Kobe Bryant. What an amazing player he was.
I agree with that. So I got to ask, about 6 weeks later, the NBA shuts down for the year. Obviously, the players had to stay in good shape and get ready for when the bubble would resume. How did you guys, keep busy as coaches and making sure that your players were ready to go whenever and wherever the bubble would resume?
Well, I just worked with AD as much as he could. We tried not to do too much because you don't want to overdo it because we really didn't know what was going to happen. And once we heard we were going to be back to playing, obviously we started working every day. So we worked, every other day for about 2 months. There were still things I wanted to work on with him that we needed to iron out, and I think that showed in the playoffs. So I was kind of thankful for it as a coach. You kind of get a little reprieve, and you get to kind of readdress some issues that I felt like he needed to continue to work on. So, but AD's a worker, and he's a great listener. He's so talented that he makes a lot of those things look really easy that are real difficult. So it was nice to be able to spend that time working with him on a every other day, like I said, for about 2 months. And then when we knew we were coming back, then it was every day, and we had to get him back in shape. So, we watch a lot of film. That's what coaches do nowadays. So we spend a lot of time on film. We study, communicate with each other. We had conversations. We had Zoom meetings. We had text messages, phone calls with our scouts, and just gathering as much data as possible. And then that's our job as coaches, to pass it on to the players and make sure that they're ready to go.
Yep. So you guys fly down from LA to Orlando to Disney for the bubble. One goal in mind, that's to win a championship. So I got to ask, was there anything that surprised you that was challenging about being there? Because I know you said, spending time away from family and, being isolated, but was there anything that surprised you that you didn't anticipate?
Well, the surprise in the bubble is that, they say, oh, you're going to come into a place and just be here, and there's going to be enough for you to do or whatever. There was really not a lot to do. So you're not traveling, so you don't have that time where you would normally spend time traveling and getting ready and preparing. So you're not doing any of that. So you have a lot of downtime, and you can't watch film and play basketball for 24 hours. So you're trying to figure out this strange kind of habits, daily routines that are totally unique because you're in a hotel room and you go down to like the local, not the local, but the hotel, ballroom to have practice. So you're not going anywhere. You're not doing anything that takes any time. So you got to find stuff to do or you're going to go crazy. And so, thankfully we got along with our staff. We had dinners together. We had lunches together. We had our meetings. Frank Vogel is just an amazing coach and really a great manager of not only our staff, but the team. And so, we tried to make it fun. We had, Monday Night Football events where we could sit and watch Monday Night Football and have pizza. We tried to create the, culture and environment where the players enjoyed being together, but it wasn't, mandatory. We had ice cream things and, we would all go for sit together and watch football when it was on Sunday night. So we just tried to make events where we could include each other, but not have it be all about basketball. We used to use the phrase, how are we going to beat the bubble? We had to beat the bubble because it was such a strange thing. And there, you could see a lot of guys having a hard time with it. They were just, a lot of guys wanted to get out of there and some guys did leave. But we had to find a way to stay focused. I think it was more of a mental toughness, battle than it was necessarily a physical one because we weren't traveling, which is usually the difficulty. So.
Yeah, so I noticed with you guys in the first few rounds, especially Portland and Houston, you guys had star power to match their star power. Even Denver, had AD on Jokic, and that could have been a close series if Anthony Davis doesn't hit that shot. But how hard was it to game plan for Jimmy Butler, a player like that, knowing that, he didn't have to score many points and could still have a huge impact on the court? I felt like the first few rounds, their stars really had to have the games of their lives to have a chance.
Yeah, I think, the playoffs are about the superstars in terms of all your preparation. So, we prepared for him in the same way we prepared for Murray and Jokic, and the same way we prepared for Harden and Westbrook, and the same way we prepared for Lillard and McCollum. So, we spent a ton of time gathering information and sharing information as best we could, argued through some game plans. And yeah, Butler, provided a different look for us. We were really concerned about their shooters because that's really what opens up the floor for Butler. So we spent a lot of time just game planning on and focusing on Duncan Robinson and on Tyler Hero and on Jay Crowder. And we just needed to maintain that focus on that side so that Butler didn't have outlets. When he would dribble himself into difficult places, he could throw his way out into shooters. And so we wanted to make sure we stayed home on those guys. So Miami provided a different, challenge for us in terms of preparation. But Jimmy Butler's a great player. He still found a way. So all superstars have those games where you just go, there's nothing we can do. And but again, every game we played in the bubble, we felt like the Lakers lost that game. We didn't feel like we got beat. There were a number of mistakes that we had made in those games that we could have easily come out and won. And instead, those turned out to be great teaching and growing opportunities for our team. And then you saw how we responded in those games. Usually we won those next couple of games, pretty handily.
Yeah, I was very impressed how you guys responded in Game 6 after an unbelievable Game 5. I mean, if you're a neutral fan, that's the type of game you want to see. And I can only imagine how stressful it was from the sideline. So, honestly, how did it feel? Game 6, you guys were about to wrap this thing up. How did it feel to finally win the title for Los Angeles?
Well, I mean, it was a relief in a lot of ways because obviously you're talking about the end of being in the bubble and getting out. So there was some excitement on that side as well as excitement of winning. Obviously, it was a different feeling. You don't have the celebration that's normal in terms of just having all the fans and the people running around and the chaos that ensues with the fans going crazy, which is always fun. But it was great to share it with those guys. I mean, it's a unique bond and a unique chemistry that's built between people who are suffering through those type of enduring situation like the bubble was. And so we grew very close. And so there wasn't a sense of relief, but it was definitely a sense of accomplishment, and that we had put the preparation in and then come through. But we were excited for LeBron. I mean, that guy's, he carries such a heavy load and he has to deal with so many things on a daily basis that when you see it up close, you go, man, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, I got to ask, LeBron sets a historic mark in the finals, 3 finals MVPs of 3 different teams. Kawhi Leonard, who won the title last year, has done it with 2 different teams. And, he has a chance to do that as well. You played with Kobe Bryant, who played with one team for 20 years. Do you think the whole free agency and kind of changing teams and trying to win titles, Kevin Durant moved to Brooklyn, do you think that's kind of the new direction the league's going in?
Well, a lot of the players are deciding to go play for new teams and want, a new place to play or maybe a new routine. I would think it's pretty clear that the NBA now is going that way. I think a lot of players are doing that. I think if you find the right guy and you can build around him the right way, he doesn't have to go anywhere. I don't see Steph Curry going anywhere. So, and I don't see AD going anywhere. So if you get the right place and they can build the right players around him and maybe add another superstar around him, then you don't want to leave because you got to go somewhere else and start over. So some of the guys have chosen teams that maybe hasn't worked out because they haven't maybe clicked with some of the superstars they've joined up with, or they went to a team that they thought was going to be better and rebuild quicker and maybe had some injuries. But the NBA is going that way. And, as a coach, you got to be ready to be able to handle those type of situations. You're not in a place where you're going to be able to run the same system every year because you're going to have new players every year. So being flexible, I think Nick Nurse is a good example of a guy who's done a great job with that. Frank Vogel adjusted his stuff to being here. That he ran in Indiana, and he made some great adjustments. So there are coaches out there that are doing it, that are being successful, and that proposes a new challenge. These guys jumping around to different teams. I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't think that's necessarily the right way of putting it, good or bad. I think it's just kind of the way it is. And so there's a lot to be said as to the way the game's being called as a referees call the game. That changes the way the game's being played. Maybe it makes it easier for players to be on teams where they don't have as much chemistry, and the basketball is a little more it's more simple. You don't have to run as many set plays that require real execution. Perfectly set screens, perfectly timed passes into maybe shots that are heavily contested. It's a different game now, so it's more up and down. It's more free. And so the players can maybe be, less of execution-oriented players and more of a super skilled-oriented players. The game's obviously more skilled than it's ever been, just because the three-point line's, been such a focus, and players can drive and get by people more, I think, easier than they have in the past. But again, that's all just the way that this era is being called, and I think it's kind of fun to see players in new places, and they're all so talented in the NBA. So it's still the game. I think the game is going in the right direction.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see what happens also next summer, because that's supposed to be a blockbuster summer like last year. So I got to ask, LeBron James, great talent on the court, has been a really big voice in the social justice community off the court. Really cares about his hometown, Akron, with the school. big presence on social media too. What are some things that people don't see that, you kind of see on a regular day basis in practice that the fans don't?
Well, LeBron loves to laugh. I mean, he loves to have a good time. So he's constantly having fun. He makes fun of himself. He's quick to laugh about things that go on in life, and so he brings a presence in our practices and our meetings that is one that makes it easy for us to coach. It makes it easy for the players to be around. He's not difficult at all. He's super engaged in everything we do. So, but it's always with a fun perspective. So I think people don't realize this about him, but that guy loves to laugh and he loves to have a good time. So he's quick to laugh, quick to listen, and he's one to throw his thoughts out. Even if we sometimes have other thoughts as coaches, he's willing to listen. He's willing to be coached, which is a hard thing to do for superstars because they really don't need us. They don't need to play. They can do it themselves. And so when they're willing to fall into that and to be the leader in that regard, it makes the whole team fall in. So I think he's quick to laugh and he's a very coachable player.
It's a good thing to have, and it's especially amazing to see how much he's won wherever he's gone. So how excited are you and the coaching staff and the players to try and repeat? A lot of teams are going to be back. Denver, the Clippers have a great shot with that roster. Who knows what the Bucks are going to do with Giannis, but Boston isn't going anywhere, and even the Warriors might be back. I think it's going to be even more exciting than last year. What do you think?
Yeah, there's a lot of good teams in the Western Conference. So just looking at the West, I mean, the East has their own issues for us to deal with, but the Western Conference is going to be really difficult. You got Ty Lue there now with the Clippers, with Kawhi and Paul. They're going to be really good. Steph's back, and Clay, so Golden State's going to be good again. Don't sleep on Phoenix and Dallas and teams like that are talented and young that can put 140 points on the board. Denver, you saw how good they are. I mean, they're just fantastic. So Utah's same deal, really good. Don't sleep on them. So we got our hands full again to try to repeat. We're going to have to work, extra hard. It's always hard to win the second one just because everybody's gunning for you every night. And, we're going to have to be ready.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. And what I'm really excited about is that unlike those few years with the Warriors, you kind of don't know who's going to be in the championship from the West. It's very interesting and exciting. And congratulations on the championship again. And thanks for coming on my show.
Thanks a lot, buddy. Thanks for having me. It was a great time.
Yep. Have a good one.